Welcome to the Care Liver podcast brought to you by the Staying Close team. This is the space where we share stories, spark conversation, and explore the journey from care to independence. Let's get started. Imagine you are the Prime Minister. You've been appointed Prime Minister of the UK, and you can't refuse that. You have to. It's something that you have to do. So, what will you do? What will the first thing that you think you will do in post?
So the first thing that I would do is sack everyone, and then I would reform most policies, including NHS policies, as well as immigration policies, because I'm a true and firm believer of open borders. And then another thing that I would do in terms of supporting care leavers is ensuring that everyone who is in cabinet is aware of vulnerable demographics, including homeless people, care leavers, unaccompanied asylum seekers as well. And that, because you'd be surprised that actually people in quite high positions of power who are just unaware of what a care leaver is, once you tell them, it's a child that's been in foster care, they go like, oh yes, right, I kind of, foster care, foster families. But it's really something that should be at the forefront of their mind, and that's a legal term, care leaver, that everyone should know.
You said you're gonna sack everyone. Why would you sack everyone?
They're bad at their job.
Okay. So, what else will you do to improve the life of care leaver as Prime Minister?
So, if I lived in sort of a fairy tale, I would sort of allocate a much greater budget to social services, because I find that a really big problem is that the government has cut back a lot of funding for children in care. And that really puts a strains on the education, the quality of opportunities that they have, and also just leisure activities that they have. So funding would be something that I would look at. Don't ask me where it's coming from. I would find it somehow. And then another thing would be understanding safeguarding policies and making sure that they are the same and consistent across different boroughs. And that it's not just safeguarding policies, but also local offers. So it'd be great if local offers could be met for. So, for example, an example of this is you have council tax exemption. That might not be the case if you're a care leaver for somewhere else in England. And let's say you're a care leaver from the north of England. Is that something that you're entitled to? And if it's not, that is a really big inequality. That's unfair. Why should you be entitled to less just because of where you live?
That's interesting. Okay. But I think for council tax, for instance, I think it's nationwide. Actually. Yeah. I think the offer is national. I think the rule on it, I think in 2013 with the offer. But yeah, you made a good point. It should be nationwide for everything. Thank you. Okay, so what is the most scary thing about becoming independent when you think of independence? What's the most scary?
Scary. Having to cook for yourself, having to cook and clean for yourself. So I would say that's quite scary because when you're younger, you kind of take it for granted. And whether you're in foster care or, in semi-independent, you do have support in terms of people cleaning after you to a certain extent. And when you do become independent, that you realize that's something that you have to get into routine about. And I find that in England, we have a really big problem with growing obesity and just eating a lot of processed sugars. And I'm the biggest culprit for that. I love going to McDonald's, which is really bad. It's those skills that are scary to learn because I find that if you've not learned them properly from an early age on, such as budgeting, for example, and finances, they can be really hard to learn. And it's a slow process.
Okay. You do know that we still have in your home, we have offer for that. We have support for that to help you learn those things that you didn't actually pick up at the early age. So it's probably best to speak to your key worker or to your people, and then they probably help you. We help as well as Staying Close team in terms of budgeting, cooking, whatever, just to have sessions for that. So think about that as well. What is the biggest challenge that you have faced so far?
So my biggest challenge was probably having to suspend from university because of health reasons. I found that, and doing that at the same time as moving into a semi-independent home has been quite challenging, because it can make you feel like you're behind, and especially when you're already in care, you can feel like you're not starting off on the best foot and don't have the same advantages as other children. So to then take a year out has made me, feel that way even more. That is definitely a challenge that I still struggle to this day, but I find that the workers at St. Christopher's have helped me work through and sort of see different perspectives about it.
Oh, that's great. Happy to hear that. Okay. Then in those challenges that you've just mentioned, who was there for you? Who helped you? Who was the person that you trusted the most and were able to counter?
So because most of those challenges happened before I moved into semi-independent, I will have to say my foster carer was honestly, my foster family was the ones who were there for me the most. But I find that, I've only been here a week and I've gotten support every single day from staff members here. And I can see how in the future they will be a great key to my development and returning to uni.
Okay, that's good. I think that transition nicely to the next question about how St. Christopher's had helped you in any way since you moved. You said you've been here for a week. So can you give us tangible support that you've received from St. Christopher's?
So even though my experience with St. Christopher's has been fairly brief, I can say that just the genuine enthusiasm of the workers and how welcoming they are has helped me a lot in my transition into a semi-independent home. For example, on my first day here, we celebrated a cultural day where we celebrated the culture of every member of the house as well as staff, and we had lots of different foods, we did lots of games and dancing, and it was a really good way to bond with other people in the house and get to know staff.
That's good. It's good to know that. Cool. So what do you wish they told you at the start of the journey in general? I know you just been in semi-independent for just a week, but in care in general, I guess let's broaden it. What do you think it would have been much easier or better for you if you knew?
Probably the saying that education is power, but I'm going to add a little bit of an extension to it. Education doesn't have to mean schooling. So just general education and knowledge about, for example, benefits or what you're entitled to in the local offer. It doesn't have to be, because a lot of people that I find that I really struggle, and it makes me really sad because I've had the opportunity and the privilege of being able to do GCSEs and A-levels, and a lot of children in care haven't. And when I've worked with them and just been friends with them, to hear that like, oh, that's just not for me, etc. I'm not really a smart person, but that's actually not true. That's just the circumstances in which they've been brought up. And I find that a lot of people have a focus on education is power. You need to do A-levels. You need to have this straight path to a career. And that's not the choice for everyone. That's not the opportunity for everyone. That's not the right thing for everyone. And I think that regardless of what education means for you, just knowledge and understanding on simple things can be very powerful and can help you a lot. And that is a little bit of a thing that I don't think is necessarily just the young person's responsibility, but also the people around them. So if your social worker or your PA or your support worker isn't knowledgeable on something, how can you expect to be?
That's true. And you'll be happy to, we talked about it before starting that podcast, but you'll be happy to know that Pulse is actually promoting learning in general, not necessarily formal kind of education. As you said, education is not necessarily have to go to A-level, go to uni. Everybody have different, as long as you learn something and then you develop, and everybody has the capacity to do so. So yeah, I like that you point out. And then if you had a chance, what would you like to say to those decision makers they said you're gonna sack who have the power to make the care experience better for children and young people?
So I actually in my free time volunteer a lot with directors of social services.
Okay.
And something that I really like to say to anyone that is in a managerial position or someone of power that has the capacity to make lots of decisions that will affect a lot of people is come and spend a day with young people. Even if, I know that, for example, like a manager might be like, well, I'm not a support worker. That's not within my job description. But come and meet those people and see how your decision will impact their everyday life. And that can be for both the negative and the positive. So some people might be like, wow, I didn't know that, we had such a lack in X thing in our service. But the director might also get really good positive experience out of it. Be like, I've had a great time with young people. I can see that all the work I've put in my 10 years of career as a St. Christopher's, let's say, has really worked out.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think we are at the end of the question that we had, but I don't know if there's anything in particular that you'd like to add to wrap it up. If there's anything you have a comment or a suggestion or whatever, something that we didn't cover necessarily and you think is important.
Big shout out to the workers being so wonderful.
Oh, this is lovely. Thank you very much for this time. And then I think we really enjoy spending that time with you.